right, welcome back to another episode of More Than a Mortgage, where we help people build wealth through real estate and beyond. And I'm here today with
Tom Merritt.
And I'm Mike Black, and what's been going on, man?
Oh,
Spring.
spring, and crazy times all the way around in more ways than one. But definitely knee deep in what the action, so to speak.
I have a funny story.
You do?
Yeah.
What do you got?
I was going to the gym yesterday, and I got to, I changed here at the office and then walked down to the gym downstairs and end up, getting my stuff on. And last thing I put on was a pair of pants. And
Pants are good.
Warm-up pants.
Yeah.
And it was my wife's. I grabbed my wife's warm-up pants instead of mine. And so for those of you that know my wife, she's like 5 foot tall on like a high heel day, and I'm 5'10" and a half, and yeah, needless to say, it was.
I know you like the fashion statements, but that's going a little far there, Mike. Any comments?
Well, there's two options you have at that point. You either go home and not work out, or you suck it up and go to the gym and be a real man with some tight pants on. So
there you go.
I chose option 2 and walked into the gym. The funny part is
I'll give you credit.
When I got in there, the lady at the front desk said, "Wow, those pants look really good on you." And I was like, wow.
Nice. So you were obviously behind the desk.
Maybe I need to go shopping in the extra small women's aisle and then Viore.
There you go. It's a new definition to short, tight pants.
It was uncomfortable, to say the least.
Uncomfortable. There's a term that we've heard a lot of lately. Yeah. So you know what else? Transition tag. You know what else is uncomfortable these days is the spring market.
I was going to say I can think of a lot of things, but the spring market for sure is uncomfortable. So
yes,
that's kind of what we wanted to center our talk around today. Is just, I know it's been frustrating. Buyers are worn out. Lenders are worn out.
Agents are worn out.
Realtors are worn out. Sometimes it feels like you don't have a light at the end of the tunnel with this market the way it is, and it can be frustrating, man. So,
absolutely.
I think one of my best realtors actually, I think a week or two ago, was 0 for 8, meaning he had 8 offers that went out and didn't secure one contract on those offers. And it's not because they were bad offers. They were like
good competitive offers.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you got a little dosage of what we're dealing with here in the Chicago market, it's probably the toughest I've seen it in 23 years.
I agree, and it's kind of funny because you look at social media, and this is the first time in a while I've seen such differing markets across the country. I've seen in kind of the sunshine state of Florida and Texas, and even down in the East Coast where they're talking about inventory, plenty of it, and lack of buyers or
buyers market.
Inventory. Yeah, and the reality is that's not the case here. And we've got plenty of war stories similar to what you said, the 0 for 8. You get these, especially the first-time home buyers who go out and they have certain expectations and think they're going to go in and offer just under or maybe at list price, and unfortunately,
not
woefully
happening.
Declined.
Not happening.
No.
So I took it a step further, and I said, I went in and said, what are the biggest frustrations in the Chicago market that buyers are searching for these days? So I went like, what are they going to Google? What are they going to ChatGPT? What are their biggest frustrations? And it's amazing with technology these days what it spit out. But I wanted to discuss some of those because it's really what we see every single day. We're in the trenches. We're on the weekends, like on phone calls. We're trying to help buyers get into homes. We're trying to help agents win deals. And so lo and behold, I mean, going through the list here, the number one thing that's being searched is losing multiple offers.
Jeez, ding, ding, ding. That's
a big one, right? This is why are we losing all the time? Why do we feel like we're never winning deals when we go in there and we feel like we're making a good, solid offer?
And I think it's a little interesting. It's not just that entry level point of 300 to 500,000. I mean, we're talking even the multi-million-dollar homes that are having these multiple offers. So it starts, first-time home buyers all the way up to those seasoned buyers that have.
And we're starting to see it on high-rise condos again. I mean,
yes.
We're starting to see that too. So, just to kind of put it bluntly, and again, we've talked about this in the past, but like not everybody is a spring market buyer, right? And one of the things that you have to be mentally prepared for, like it or not, and we've lost it at even steeper numbers than this, but you have to be prepared for 50 to 100K over list price right now. In most cases to win. Not all the time, but in most cases, that's kind of what I've been seeing us losing to. And in fact, I can give you an example. We went $100,000 over a list price, 120 over a list price recently, and we finished fifth.
Yeah,
That was at a $525,000 price point.
So, you know, we have different property or client types. Actually working with 2 engineers right now, and they're on their 7th
That's fun
offer.
in this market.
Yeah, no kidding. And they've narrowed it down. At least all the offers that they've gone after have ended up being accepted between 17.5% and 18.5%. So over list. So, you know, irrelevant of actual price. And obviously there's outliers here and there that are going to maybe be a little bit less or a little bit more, but, you know, so now literally they went in at, 18.5% over list and they got it.
Yeah.
So
and look, guys, it's not always price that wins. I mean, I just last weekend we had a client. When I first started working with them, they came and said, we ran through all the tactics and strategies and mapped out the game plan on what we're going to do to compete at a high level in this market. And her comment to me, the wife's comment to me was, I am not comfortable waiving I'm not comfortable waiving my contingencies, meaning, when you waive contingencies, you have an out of the contract, you're protected. And so I said, okay, well, I hope we get comfortable with it, because in this market, you're going to have to. So last weekend, we were in a multiple offer, and we ended up, getting into a bidding war. We did not even finish at the top when it came to price. But I had a come to Jesus conversation with her, and I said, probably about 3 weeks ago on another one we were in, I said, hey, you are not going to win. You're wasting your time writing the offer with contingencies tied to it. A mortgage contingency, appraisal contingency, any of that stuff. So this time around, we weren't the highest. We were about 10,000 lower than the next highest offer, but our terms were better.
There you
she
go.
waived everything. And so now she still had the inspection in place with no request, but she waived everything. And we had a fairly quick close, and that was what won the deal for us. So it wasn't the highest, it was the best offer.
Yeah, and I think we went back, if you look at our last episode, we talked about some of the different things that you can do with regards to contingencies and being a little bit more competitive, if you will, and obviously getting comfortable with it. And as you said, having that meeting with your team, having that understanding of what each of those contingencies mean is super helpful, because in this case, you weren't the highest, but you were the winner as a result.
And I know this sounds funny, or may sound like stupid, but I knew the listing agent too.
That helps.
And she knew us, and she was comfortable.
You could get it done.
She was comfortable who was with the lending side of things. So, not saying that's what won the deal for him, but if you take the combination of the terms plus the familiarity with the team, plus she knew the buyer's agent, all that came together perfect. And now they're getting probably the best place they've seen so far, and they've been looking for over a year.
Yeah. Well, again, and I know we've said this in the past, but it comes down to the seller wants one of two things or a combination of both: highest price and least risk of it not closing.
Yeah.
So when you have a team that they're familiar with and they know with a reputation, and you take a pretty close, close to the highest price, those two combinations along with the no contingencies all day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is the number one thing that people are searching right now, is why do I keep losing? And, a lot of it comes down to the way you're writing the offer. And again, it matters who you're working with.
100%.
I've talked to several clients this past week. They said, I'm working with a realtor who's friends with my wife, and she lives out in Hinsdale, and we're buying a place in Lincoln Park. And I'm like, guys, no offense to your Hinsdale agent. If you're moving to Hinsdale, that might be a great move. I'm looking at their numbers. They've done 3 buy-side transactions over the last 12 months, and they live in Hinsdale.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Maybe they may not do this full time. This might be a hobby, and it really does matter, the relationships that you have. I've had clients move out to the suburbs and said, I want to use an agent in that vicinity that's a top producer, because they know everyone else, and that's important. Having that relationship on the other side of the fence, knowing who the agent is, knowing they're familiar with you. They're the ones talking to the sellers. They're the ones putting the good word in. They don't know who the agent is, and they look them up and see that they're in Hinsdale doing a condo downtown or a single family downtown. It puts some doubt in their mind, right?
And, at the end of the day, and I think this is one thing that maybe a lot of the buyers or other people aren't aware of, but have that conversation with your agent. If you want to help them out, that's great. But if they're not experienced in a certain market, they probably have some pretty good colleagues that are. And, they could refer you to somebody, and they're still going to get compensated as a result,
Totally.
which, again, you're taking care of them, but obviously preserving the best interests of yourself with being successful in these offers.
Absolutely. So another big one that came up, I think you and I hear a lot of, is just, I don't think now is the time to buy. It's just rates are too high.
Well, the rates, we've addressed that for the last 3 years.
Yeah. Rates are too high. It's not a good time to buy. And I think one of our episodes, we talked about this, when you're buying a home in this market, you want rates as high as you can possibly get them, because it minimizes the competition, right?
Because people are afraid of the high rates, and
Right.
as a result, they may not be putting in as big an offer, or they may not even be offering as a result of it.
Yeah.
But in that same episode where we talked about that, we also talked about some of our clients who did take that chance, get the higher interest rate 2 years ago, and now have over 20% equity when initially putting down 5%, because the values have continued to increase. And guess what? They've also refinanced. So they refinanced and got a lower rate, and they removed their private mortgage insurance, and the value of their property and the equity that they've gained is huge.
So that's called opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost,
Right?
absolutely.
That's what we're looking at, is opportunity cost. What's the opportunity? And, if you think that the inventory issue is going to get better in Chicago anytime soon, you're wrong. It's just not. So, if you go by the law of supply and demand, and the demand is out there, I might even have Jesus put this in as a photo to show this on this example here. But I got a text the other day with an open house that had a line outside the door onto the block, around the block. It was the agent said it took him 48 minutes to get into the house. So the demand is real. The inventory is real. So, don't be afraid of the interest rate. Worry about your payment. Lean back on guys like you and I, or your loan professional, to give you confidence in your finances, to run through that budget with you, to make sure the payment looks fine, and to also tell you that, hey, if you're going to be if you're going to start at 750, you might have to win this at 8.25. You've got to go up in price to win these deals. So you need to know what 750 looks like, but you also need to know what 8.25 looks like, because you have
to be prepared.
You have to be prepared and comfortable with that. And if the payment checks out, I wish the rate thing didn't even exist, because it really comes down to the payment. Does it fit into your budget? The rate's just a feeling. The payment is actually what's real.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's another big one. And, at the end of the day, if you guys are waiting for rates to get on the 4s and 3s, believe me, I can run analyses after analysis on this stuff to show you that you're going to pay a higher price, which is going to wash out that interest rate difference. It's just not worth waiting for the rate.
Well, yeah, and then 3 and 4% was artificial anyway. Government threw money into it. They're not doing that now. So the reality is you're going to wait a very long time, if not forever, and never really get that opportunity to own if you're waiting for rates to get to the 3s or 4s.
So then that takes us into inventory. That's another one. When is more inventory coming on?
They're working on it, but it's a slow move. Again, if we think through the history, it started with the mortgage meltdown in 08. All these builders, we had way oversupply. We probably had 2-3 year supply at that point, but it knocked out all the builders. The values all went down, and nobody started building again, period, until probably 2018, 2019. And then what happened? We hit COVID, and COVID shut down all the supplies. And so we really haven't been building for probably a good 15 years or so.
Yeah.
So to catch up at that level, plus again, depending on the area you're with, somewhere like Chicago, the reality is there's only so much land and there's only so many places you can go. The inventory, at least here in Chicago, is not going to be improving anytime soon.
No, and it's gotten more expensive for builders to build.
That too.
The multifamily, the things that I think that create more inventory. My whole street right now is just nothing but builders tearing down $300,000, $400,000 bungalows and building $1.5 million to $2 million homes. And I'm in Irving Park, and that's kind of where it's all shifted towards because everything else is built out
Yeah.
in that area. But like, that's not really creating more inventory per se.
No, so I was fortunate enough to hear a conference or a talk with the president of JLL, and it just talked about how, and he's one of the only developers even here in the city, and the reality is the cost to produce entry-level condos is so high that he's not doing it.
Right.
Instead, they will buy up 2 or 3 lots and build a luxury mansion because that's where they're going to get their return on their investment. And again, builders, developers, they're not in the game to lose money.
Yeah.
They want to make money. So that is where they're doing it. Obviously, there are a few here and there, maybe the 4 flats, 4 units that they're building and things, but it's very few and far between, which is actually not adding to the inventory, it's almost subtracting,
right?
Because they're knocking down these multi-units to build these single families.
Yeah, it's insane. So I think to sum that up, it's not about what's out there. It's about being prepared and ready when it comes available.
Yes.
Right. It's knowing like what you need to do to win when that opportunity pops up, or at least put yourself in the best position to win. And I can tell you that out of 20 offers on a place, there's probably only 3 or 4 of them that they're really looking at, so having yourself positioned to strike when the iron's hot, to go in with a strong offer, that's, I think, everything in this market right now.
I think along with that, it's also managing expectations. The expectation that you're going to win on that first go around, or the expectation that the property itself has to be perfect. Like, those are just things that aren't going to happen. And so to prepare yourself for it and to make sure you understand there might be a couple of things. If it's 80%, 70% of exactly what you want, that's pretty good, for this market.
There's never going to be a perfect place, right? There's always going to be
something,
things that like stick out that you're not comfortable with, but you're right. You got to have that 70% checks the box rule.
What are the have-to-haves versus like-to-haves?
Yeah, exactly. So, don't wait for rates. Don't wait for inventory. Just be prepared is the key component. And look, if you're not comfortable in anything that we're discussing today, you might just be a fall buyer, and that's okay. That's a totally different market. It's not as much competition. The spring market's going to be the hot times is what we're in right now. And that usually goes till about July 4th.
Yeah.
After July 4th, it slows down a
Clockwork.
lot, and we see things get a little quieter. Another frustration that came out that people search for most in the Chicago market is their cash confusion. Not understanding, thinking they, listening to their parents saying they have to put 20% down, or not having enough money left over on the sidelines, or didn't realize I didn't have closing cost, or, oh, we're going over list price. Like, my agent's telling me I got to put gap coverage on there. That means I've got to put $20,000 more down, which normally isn't the case in those types of scenarios. So not just fully understanding like the cash side of this scares people in this environment right now, especially when we get into talking about winning multiple offers and winning deals.
Yeah, I think recognizing and again having that conversation as part of the initial pre-approval is crucial. Understanding that 20% down really only means a lack of private mortgage insurance, which for many people is anywhere between $25 and $100 a month. And so it's not really the end of the world. We've been fortunate and we have not seen a lot of issues with appraisals or values coming in less, but they are out there.
Yeah.
But the reality is in many cases, it doesn't have any effect on what you're going to spend on a monthly basis, or even potentially the money down, because you just rework the numbers.
And I'll take it even a step further. Like, it used to be that I used to tell people just to get me their bank account that says where your down payment and your closing costs are coming from. I want to see it all now. I want to see it all, because the reality of it is that if I can get you qualified on a 30 or 40% down payment on a pre-approval, it doesn't mean you have to put that much down. It just means that we verified that you had that much to put down. And so like, we want to try to put you in the best position possible to win. And I hate to say this, but a 20% down payment just looks better than a 10%. A 15% down payment will look better than a 5%. That one we won this past weekend, it was 20% down, but I verified that they had 25. So we went in with 25 down just so they looked a little bit stronger.
And that's the key right there. And I think just don't want to brush over it, if you will, is, the ability to do it and state that you can do it versus actually doing it are two completely different things. And so the reality is okay, you have 20% or 25% to put down. That doesn't necessarily mean at the end of the day, as long as we get you to the finish line with you getting the loan and being comfortable with that monthly obligation, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think a lot of it, in my opinion, comes from just lack of education, lack of preparation. Like,
Which is crucial in this market.
it's I mean, how many times have you had someone call you and say, I've been out looking with my agent for 2 months and I'm ready to get pre-approved? Like, guys, that is the wrong way to do this, like, whole process. And realtors, for those of you out there that are taking your clients out and showing them places with an online printout of a pre-approval in their hands, it's no wonder that you've been looking for 2 or 3 months.
You're doing both your client and yourself a disservice.
Totally. I mean, the agents that I know that sit down and have their buyer consultation and rely on me to have a good buyer consultation on my side, they're winning at a much higher level right now because the buyer is prepared. They understand their cash. They understand their tactics and strategies. They understand getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. They understand that they're going to have to really go digging deep to win the deal, right? So I think the lack of preparation right now is, like, to me, it's just a waste of time. Like, if your clients aren't fully prepared, don't take them out. Like, get them prepared. It'll save you a lot more time on the back end to have clients that are fully prepared. Not to mention that there's times where I call the realtor up and I just say, they're not going to be ready for this market.
No.
I would not waste your time driving around, because they're literally going to be, they're fall buyers. They're not going to waive anything.
And I think people get a little nervous because they feel as though they're doing a disservice to the buyer. But the reality is, I think they're doing a much better service to the buyer, because the buyer needs to be prepared, or else they're going to get super frustrated with you as the agent and ultimately say that you're not helping them out. And down the line, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so you're spending all your time and going with them. They get frustrated because they don't fully understand the market, and you don't put your foot down as the professional to make sure that they understand the market and go do their due diligence to figure out where they need to be and how they need to be there to be successful.
Yeah, totally. Another big frustration that came across the wires was just the fear of risk. And that kind of leads into what we've been talking about. It's just, I don't want to pay too much for this house, or I don't want to, like, waive contingencies and put myself in harm's way. Like, how do you overcome that with somebody? Like, that's, to me, like, that's why you have the buyer consultation.
Well, and I think there's two sides to it, right? And maybe they're the same, but risk reward. So you're going to have to take some risk in order to get rewarded. But understanding your risk, it mitigates the actual outcome. I mean, we've had this conversation.
And understanding your reward.
Well, understanding the reward as
Yeah.
well. What's the end goal and what are you ultimately trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
So, but understanding what your risk is, again, we've got this mortgage contingency in place to save you if in the event you can't get this loan. But if you've gone through the due diligence and you've had this full-blown pre-approval, and we know where the credit is, we know where your assets are, and let's just say you're self-employed, you can't lose your job, the mortgage contingency for the most part is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So that is something that is really regarded from a lending perspective and from a seller's perspective, but is really not really much of a risk once you understand it, if you're in that position.
Yeah. So I love what you said, like the risk reward, because I don't think people see that enough.
Yeah.
And, sometimes they're just not, working with the right team to explain that to them. But, at the end of the day, you got to know that there is a real thing where we've had what you said earlier. We've had clients that put 3% down, and like a year and a half later, their place went up $125,000. So that's the reward. The reward is, one, you get your place your dream place that you're looking for, and you feel good, and your family's got a place to live. Two is like the financial reward that comes out of it in markets like this. Like, the earlier you can get in, the better off you're going to be, because that appreciation continues to grow on the property. And that's just something that you have to be able to know and see. And I even do it at a conservative number. Like on condos, I do like 3%.
Yeah.
But it's been more like 15 to 20 over the last 3 years.
Oh,
right?
easily. I mean,
so at a minimum. So like, we do a conservative layout for you. But again, I think a lot of home buyers or potential home buyers fall back on the idea that I can just rent. Well, guys, there are like 10 renters for every unit that's available out there right now.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not like it's less competition, less inventory. It's the same thing, and
that's
you're raising
more risky
cost
because that's going up 10 to 15% a year on rentals right now too.
And then 2 years later, and that borrower you were just discussing, or that purchaser, they've lost out on $125,000 of equity.
Yes, yeah. So, it's you don't really eliminate the risk because it's always going to be there. You just have to navigate it through it intelligently,
manage it.
And again, it goes back to who you're working with. If you're working with a good agent, they're going to not let you get into a situation and a good lender where your risk is elevated. Like there comes a cutoff point. Like I am not going 30% over list price on this deal. Sorry, you can take on the brunt of that risk. That's okay, but you need someone to transparently tell you that they don't think that's a good deal to go up much higher than where you're at.
100%. And I will push this on to the agents and, the agents I work with. One of these questions when we're having these conversations about what to offer is like, okay, where do you feel this value will come in? That's their job. They're going to give you a pretty fair assessment that, you know what, I feel like it's going to be a little bit risky if we get to here, but right here, we'll be fine.
Well, the other thing too is that you've got agents out there purposely going well below list price.
Oh, to list it.
To list it.
Yes.
So they're like that one that I was telling you about. They were listing it at 525, and my client had to go up to 640 to even be in the ball game. Well, the reality of it is they should have listed it at 600, but they purposely listed it at 525 to drum up like that line outside the door around the block.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why realtors would want to go through all those offers. That just for me, I would want to narrow that thing down to let's work with three.
It goes back. They're just going to look through them and ultimately take the top 5, and then.
Yes, that's exactly it. The last one I wanted to hit on before we wrap up today is just the feeling of overwhelmness.
It can be a lot.
Buyers feel overwhelmed. They've got Google in their ears. They've got ChatGPT telling them what to do. They've got
friends and family,
mom and dad telling them how to buy their homes, which my parents would never told me how to buy my house, but I know that they're just looking out for their loved ones. I get it. But at the end of the day, the feeling of overwhelmness is coming into play. And, I don't know how to fully solve that other than the initial meeting that I have with people, making them aware that this is going to be something that they're going to feel time and time again in this market.
I think certain different personalities have different levels of being overwhelmed with things. But one of the best ways to manage it is by being able to get information and understand it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that people are going to be completely relieved of any type of overwhelmingness, if you will, if that's a word. But I do think that it helps mitigate it when you have conversations and you understand whether it be the market, whether it be the options, whether it be just what's going on. And again, that comes into play with if you are the type of person that it doesn't matter how much information you have, then maybe this isn't the right time.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
So that just narrows it down to clarity.
Yeah.
Having a lot of clarity up front and not 3/4 of the way through the process when you're in the middle of a multiple offer. The clarity it's foggy at that point. You want to have I think the more transparent and clear you are with people up front that this isn't going to be fun. No. If anyone tells you that buying a home right now in Chicago is going to be fun, they are lying to you. There's nothing fun about it. So you've got to understand that mindset up front. That's huge. Look, I know we just covered a lot of information. Hopefully this kind of gives you a glimpse of what we're dealing with in Chicago right now. But, I would say, to leave you guys with one nugget, to win in this environment, it's not the luckiest buyers that win. It's the ones that are most prepared and the ones that have the most confidence.
Yeah.
Right. And so
the plan in place,
it's time and time again. I talk to a lot of, successful realtors in this market and lenders, and the ones that are winning at a high level, their clients are confident. They trust their team. They know that they're going to execute at a high level, and they know how to vet problems up front pretty quickly to get them out of the deal if they have to.
Yep.
And that's just how you have to go if you want to own in Chicago.
Right
it is
now,
a great time to be a seller. It is not the best time to be a buyer, but you can win. And it does come down to the preparation behind it.
Absolutely. And the opportunity is there if you do persevere.
Yeah. Look, and if you're thinking about buying or you got a buy, sell, or you're just thinking about buying the Chicago market, reach out to us. Whether you work with us or not, Tom and I have a lot of experience in this business. We talk to a lot of realtors in the market. Like, we will gladly give you some advice on what you're doing wrong, or what we can do to help sweeten up your like negotiating skills and powers. That goes for realtors too. If you're struggling winning deals right now, call us, because we would love to like at least help you win at a higher level more than you're losing.
Absolutely.
So other than that, guys, follow us on social media. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram.
Tell people to subscribe.
Huh?
Subscribe.
Yeah, we got a lot more subscribers that have been happening lately. So subscribe. This is all about providing you with like wealth nuggets, how to compete at a high level, how to be better at your business. And look, if you watch some of our previous episodes, we provide a lot of good information on what it takes to win, what it takes to build wealth. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, but
Well, just opportunities in life.
opportunities in life. So subscribe and watch some of our previous episodes, because I tell you, you will get something out of it. So I'm Mike Black,
And I'm Tom Merritt.
and we are
More Than a Mortgage.